actually just started going live. I had never gone live before. I had somebody last 1 minute. It's pretty cool. One of the things that I talked about was kind of basically my entire life, up until like 8 years old. But one thing I really remember, and that I really enjoyed doing when I was little, was going mushroom picking. When I lived with my mom growing up, she wasn't she wasn't the most active parent. She was pretty absent. She was pretty neglected through most of my childhood. I used to get picked on and teased a lot, but when I lived with my dad, yeah, I was bullied, but I was taken care of. My basic needs were met. I'll give him that much, you know what I mean? I don't speak to him today. I don't speak to him today at all, because I had to cut him off because he is a drug user and also very hypocritical. But you know what? I wish him the best, and I hope that he does well. But but when I was younger, he took care of my basic needs, and one of the things that we used to do is go mushroom picking. So we spent a lot of time in the forest foraging for mushrooms. One of my favorite things to do is go chanterelle mushroom picking. I'm hoping that if I can keep my shit together enough, I can go out to Vancouver Island and go in September and go pick mushrooms, chanterelles, white chanterelles, orange chanterelles. I like lobster mushrooms, chicken of the wood. I'm actually a really good forager. I proved that to myself when we were out in Surrey and it was summertime. I would go out into the forests, and it was I knew all of the berries. I knew all of these different plants that you could eat. I could tell you what kind of mushrooms were which, all these different types of ferns. I could tell you what was edible, what wasn't, and I can contribute that to my father. We spent a lot of time in the mountains, out on the back logging roads, on Vancouver Island, over by Nitnat. We spent a lot of time fishing. We would go to Nitnat, and my dad would bring one of his First Nations friends, and we would catch as much salmon as we could. We would candy salmon a lot of the times. It was really good, but we would go fishing, and then there would always be bears there. I grew up around bears my entire life. This one time, we were up at Nitnat, and we were catching Chinook salmon. He gave me a fishing rod, and I got maybe a 25-pound salmon, and it took me 3 hours to reel this thing in. I was so fucking tired by the end of it. But after it all, I ended up getting the salmon in, and I dressed it, and would you believe it, but a bear was no, that's the one I want. I don't want the one that you guys threw at me. That's the one I want. And basically came and grabbed my fish. And I was so frustrated. I remember that. But my dad's that's the way it is. It's what do you want? Do you want the bear to eat you, or do you want it to eat the fish? So it was okay, I understand. But that's something that was a normal thing when we would go fishing. There would be bear there, especially on the Nitnat River, because they were getting plump for when they went and hibernated. We would go, I remember we would go mushroom picking, and we would have to go across this old service bridge. That's what it is, a service road. I was trying to remember the word. And there was one that you would have to carry your buckets across and walk, and if you fell in, you would fall into the river 20 feet down. I was never allowed to go that far, but my dad would go across, and he would go mushroom picking on the other side, and leave me by myself on the one side, And I knew the rules. I wasn't allowed to go out too far, but I would go down on the other side of the bridge and just not catch, but like pick mushrooms. And back in the day, they were only like $1 a pound, sometimes like 75 cents a pound. But today they're worth like $3.50, so it's actually worth it to go. Sometimes they're like $7 a pound, to be honest. But that's why I want to go do it. But yeah, no word of a lie. It's such a great pastime, and because of my dad spending so much time with me as a kid foraging, I have this knowledge of what is edible and what isn't, and it's just like it's like invaluable. And I really got to highlight that when I was out there last summer when I was in Surrey, trying to stay sober in the program that I was in. But I've always known that I can live off of the land, and I'm really grateful for that. But thank you. Thanks for listening, and I enjoyed live.